Hey, it's Carrie.
And Ashley.
We welcome you to the Self-Care Cafe. We are both health professionals and moms and nature lovers and food lovers and love helping women get over dieting and just start living. We think that talking about bodies and perfect bodies and dieting is just boring.
Did we put you to sleep there, Carrie?
Yes. So if you are ready to ditch dieting and get to living and talk about more important things, then you are in the right place. We don't put shame and guilt on the menu here. You don't even have to tip us.
Nope.
Come hang with us. The advice is free. We want to have a bunch of girlfriends to just hang out with and get real with. And it's time to start living, ladies. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Carrie.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
Awesome.
What are we going to talk about today?
Well, I think that we're going to talk about gratitude.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Yes, but I have a feeling some of our listeners are rolling their eyes right now. Right?
Right. Why might that be?
Well, I think that gratitude is confused with like this, rose-colored glasses, always upbeat, always happy, positive, right? And it's really not about that. It's as you'll see as we get into our conversation, it's really more about being able to see what you are thankful for. It's not necessarily, and sometimes that's the lesson in the what we consider like a bad situation or tragedy or whatever that might be. What but being thankful for that lesson within that, right? That doesn't mean that, oh, you're happy that happened, but you can be thankful for the lesson that you took from that. So people who are consistently thankful does not mean that they're always happy, right? Because we are humans and there's a range of emotions.
Right. I like that. The separating between thankfulness and gratitude and happiness. They are connected, but they're not the same thing.
Right.
Right.
I mean, do people who regularly practice gratitude tend to be happier? Yes. And we'll get into some of those benefits of it, but they are not the same thing.
Right. So what is gratitude?
That's a loaded question, right? Like we looked up like on Merriam-Webster dictionary to see it. It's like what is it?
The state of being thankful or something.
Grateful. Like, well, that helps a lot. I think it is. Well, let me say what it's not. So oftentimes we get stressed out and maybe you're stressed out about money or a job or a relationship. And that's what we focus on, right? Like that's all we kind of get blinders on and get this laser focus on lack, what we don't have. I wish, like if you find yourself saying all the time, I wish I had, or I wish I could, or like that's a sign that you could use some gratitude practice. Versus gratitude is being present, being thankful for what you have. Like, okay, maybe I don't have this, but I have this. Like if we look around, there's so much that we could be thankful for. And but we get so hung up and so focused on what we don't have, what we wish we had. And that can be dangerous. A lot of people, like if you're stuck in the cycle of depression, chances are you're focusing on what you don't have. You're focused on your lack. You have a mindset of lack versus abundance, right?
Yeah.
What is gratitude to you, Ash?
Well, I think that I haven't thought of it too much until we started working together. And I think to kind of go along with like what you were just saying about what it's not, I think it's really easy to be like, yeah, I'm thankful for my house because I have a roof over my, like the really superficial layers of it almost,
Yes.
instead of, and I know we're going to talk about this more, but like getting a little bit deeper down into
Mhm.
different things and maybe why we're thankful for those things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. So, in taking kids to school, what we started, to try to get the kids to focus on gratitude and what we do have. Friday mornings on the way to school, we have to name 3 things we're thankful for.
Mm,
And it's been a cool little thing. And I said and they can't do things like, oh, I'm thankful for our house, like those
right.
big things. It
Mm,
makes them look deeper and go a little bit deeper. And some of the things sound silly, like I'm thankful for stop signs, I'm thankful for brakes, I'm right.
right.
But like if there weren't any stop signs and there weren't any brakes on cars, we'd all be in trouble, right? Like,
Right.
so it gets them to notice even deeper.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a really cool little thing. And again, we'll get even more into that. But um, it's like you said, it's easy to say, oh, I'm thankful for the roof over my head. I'm
Right.
thankful that we have food. And some people don't,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Sometimes
And
you kind of take that. So we should be thankful for those things.
definitely.
Um,
And I think, like we're going to talk about later, it's more about like, okay, yes, we're thankful for the house, but maybe we're also thankful for the hard work we put into it to make
mm,
money to be able to pay for the house, or,
right, right.
those deeper things. So let's
It's
save that for a minute. We're going to talk more about that. But
okay.
did you have something else to say, Carrie? Sorry.
Nope, nope.
Okay.
Um, so let's discuss a little bit about like like what does it do? What good does
Yes.
gratitude do, right? Like,
Yes.
does it actually have any will it change our lives if we practice gratitude? What exactly? Because what is the point in doing it? Like,
Right.
what's the big deal, right?
Yeah.
So
So
what
what
is the
is the
big
big deal? So it does a lot of stuff. And actually, Carrie has delved a lot into the research, and talked to a lot of people who, I don't know, would you say specialize in gratitude, or they
yeah.
have areas of expertise in gratitude. And so I think that you have a better a better idea on what sort of things gratitude can help us with. What does it do for our bodies, our mental health?
Yeah, well, it's amazing because gratitude kind of feels like this kind of out there, like not a concrete concept, right? But it has a lot of concrete benefits to our health. So one of the experts I spoke to said that it has like a Prozac-like effect on our brain. So it boosts the neurotransmitter serotonin, and that's the chemical in our brain that gives us that kind of that warm fuzzy feelings of well-being. It can make us more thoughtful, well-rounded people, like because it when you're only focused on the negative, right,
Right.
that's not using the whole spectrum. Like when we just get in that negative mindset, that's all it is, versus this brings more well-rounded but it even has specific health benefits. For instance, people that practice gratitude on a regular tend to have lower cholesterol. It can decrease anxiety, it can improve sleep, so sleep quality. It improves social connections, so like relationships, because who wants to be around negative Nelly 24/7, right?
Right.
So it's difficult to really form a healthy relationship with people like that are always negative.
Mhm.
And of course it decreases negative emotions. So again, it's doesn't mean you're going to be happy all the time. You don't deny, like, when you're feeling anxious or sad, if you need to grieve, anything like that. It's just
Right,
that
right. You're not like pushing it aside to then be like, oh, but I'm thankful for this, right? Like you're still
right.
feeling those things.
Exactly. Exactly. And you don't want to deny that. The difference is you don't stay there. You don't
Mm,
stay in that place in your head, right? Like,
right.
it's you acknowledge how you're feeling, you allow yourself to feel that, and then you make a conscious, intentional decision or choice to focus on gratitude. Like, what am I thinking? What am I learning in this? Sometimes it's just simply like until you go through a situation, if you lose someone or you lose a job or whatever it might be, that helps you relate to other people, right? Like if you're everything was hunky dory in life all the time, how can you possibly relate to people who experience tragedy or experience hard times in their lives, right? So it makes you it can increase your empathy, right? Because now you can relate to other people better, and be a source of help for them. And maybe that's what you can be thankful for,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because so many times we get caught up in the negative of situations.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe you're going through this so that you now can help other people going through similar situations.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's a
that's just
great point.
one way to look at it.
Yeah. And I think like we were sort of talking about too, um, it helps. It's kind of similar with how we deal with stress too. Like the more we do it, the less chronic kind of negativity or stress we might experience. And when we do have something happen, like Carrie was just saying, we're better at kind of going through it, dealing with it, being able to take that step back and looking at it. And Carrie reminded me that there's a word for it, which is called
Word of the day.
woohoo, resiliency.
Resiliency. Yeah, it's such an important concept, right? To be resilient. I feel like a lot of people don't have that um characteristic anymore. It's something that we really need to work on, and that's a good thing. Like it's not like you're just born with being resilient or
Right.
not. It's a skill that you can work at, and practicing gratitude is part of that.
Mhm.
That and I'll use myself. Like a few years ago, I went through a really I allowed myself to get caught up in the negative and depression, that lack, what I didn't have, that was totally where my focus was, and so I tried taking my life because it's like I don't have, like, and then you get in that even deeper, I'll never have it, right?
Mhm.
Like, what is wrong with me? I'll never have this, and it can really spiral into a really deep dark place. um and thankfully I did not succeed, but um and that's when I realized that was all my total focus was just on what I didn't have, what I wanted, it did not have, but instead of putting forth the effort of getting what I wanted, what I wished I had, it's like, oh, it's just easier to just focus on the negative and be done.
Yeah.
Right. And it almost did do me in, and I'm not talking about this lightly at all, but it's that I'm saying that if you don't get into that habit of gratitude and all you focus on is the negative and what you do not have, and that lack mindset, it can lead you down a very deep dark place.
Mhm. And
That
it's
is very,
really hard to get out of there. Like
it is.
once you're down there, it's just so hard to recognize sometimes that you're even there because it's just all you think about. And then
Right.
it's so hard to figure out and do the things to change.
Right. And you get in that place too when you feel like you're a burden to everyone
Mhm.
else. Like, I don't want to reach out for help because everyone else is busy living their lives and I'm just going to be a burden to them, whatever, that mindset that you get into. But if you are in that place, I would encourage you to reach out to someone that you trust. If you feel like you have no one, I should have the hotline here. We'll post it in the show notes. But know that you are not alone. There are people that care about you. um and when you start looking around and admitting that, because sometimes we just get to that point of so negative that and so and painful, we just want, you just want the pain to end. But there is life on the other side, and that is not anyone's, in my opinion, destiny to do that. So when you start focusing on And those are lies too that you're telling yourself or that your brain is telling
Right.
you. Absolute lies. So when you start to, gratitude is a choice, right? Like
Right.
it doesn't come natural to most of us.
Right.
Our brains are naturally wired toward the negative.
Right.
Okay.
And it does that for some reason, right? It's kept us alive
Right. It keeps to
mostly
right.
for
It's for safety because when you are kept inside your safe bubble, your comfort zone, there's no risk. You don't have to take risks. You can just stay safe and it's familiar to you, even if you're not crazy about it, or it's like, oh, I wish I could, right? Like do
mm,
this. It's still familiar to you. You might be miserable with it, but it's still familiar. And
right.
in familiarity is safety.
Right.
Um, but that is not, when you start realizing everything that you do have and can be thankful for. And sometimes we also have to take an honest look at ourselves and how am I, what's my role? Maybe you're depressed over a relationship, a loss of a relationship, or a job. We have to take an honest look at our own roles
Mm-hmm.
also. Like sometimes we expect people to come to our rescue when there's things that we need to do ourselves.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But all that to say that gratitude is a choice. It's an intentional choice that you have to make and you have to practice. If you want to get into a better mindset, and experience some of the health benefits also of it, you have to intentionally and consistently practice that.
Right. Yeah. I think it's hard because it's similar to all the other things that we talk about with changing the way we are looking at food or our bodies, and we can talk about body stuff a little bit in this episode too, is it's not as like tangible as some things to start out with. And so it's a little more difficult. It's all about that mindset shift.
Right.
And you can see the benefits, but it takes a little bit longer than some other things that you might try or do. And like Carrie said, we start off as a choice and then we have to try to stay consistent with it to make it a part of just how we do things now. And I think that middle part is where we all struggle so much with lots of things because humans, again, are like this instant gratification creature. And
Yep.
if we don't see it right off, it's really hard to keep going with it. Or different things come up and bump this out of our priority list, or, any number of reasons.
Right. And it's important to remember that your mindset did not get where it's at overnight.
Right.
So there's not just some magic wand you're gonna wave and wake up in the morning a completely different person. That's not how it works. It takes your brain, your neurons are wired together. The little neurons and your nervous system, they wire together. When they're wired together, they fire together. So
Right.
if your nerve pathways in your brain are wired toward the negative, which most people's are on some level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you need to practice it so that you can wire the more positive thoughts, which cut it all, in those nerve cells, so that those can fire together.
Mm-hmm.
And so that becomes more your habit. That's how habits are formed. So your habits are just basically because that's in your brain, are those that's just your brain automatically goes to those pathways, those
Right.
nerve pathways, because that's what it's used to doing. If you want to change a habit, whether it's gratitude or the way, intuitive eating or exercise, whatever it is, whatever habit you want to instill, it takes time to form those new nerve pathways to make that your brain's go to. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
And the analogy I often use is like the ones that we're using now kind of look like the highway or the interstate, right? Like you can get from start to finish really fast. It's nice and smooth. There's nothing in your way, like because you've done it for so long, you almost are on autopilot with it.
Yeah. Yeah. How many times have you driven someplace the
Mhm.
same routes, right? And
Yes,
all of a sudden you're like, I don't even remember passing, the
such and
last two.
such. Yeah. Yeah. And then trying to form the new pathway or starting the new habit is almost like bushwhacking. Like you're starting from the jungle and you have to carve out that pathway. And eventually, the more you do it, you can get through. Maybe it's really tiny, like a little tunnel, but the more you do it, the bigger of a path it will become for you to go down and hopefully be able to put the detour sign up on that highway thinking.
Right. Right. And that doesn't mean that that highway doesn't exist anymore, right?
Right. Yes, I
Um,
love that because
Still there and
Mhm.
still available for you to use. It's again, and a lot of this is comes down to mindfulness also,
Mhm.
right? Like that highway, you can think of it like it's zooming, right?
Right,
The speed limit's higher, you're just go, 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 go. If you're bushwhacking, that requires you slowing down
right,
and being intentional with getting all those weeds and maybe some
whatever.
trees and stuff
Yeah.
like that right out of there. So it takes more effort.
Yes.
Um, and that's where a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm good. Right.
Right. Yep.
And
Right.
that's where it kind of becomes important to know why you want to make this change.
Right. And I think that we say this all the time, but like nothing changes if nothing changes. So you can keep using your highway path thoughts and be in your comfort zone, like we were just talking about, and stay there. And maybe it's miserable, like we mentioned earlier. And so we have to do a little bit of work if we want to make changes or grow or, whatever your goal or intention is with this.
Right. Right. It's anything, what's the saying? Anything worth having is worth
I don't know.
waiting for or working for or something.
Working for? Let's go with that.
It's so yeah, it's and that's a great thing about all this. It's a choice, with sometimes you can keep throwing out, oh, I wish, I wish, I wish.
Mhm.
Well, that'd be great if we could just make our three wishes, right? And have things,
Yeah, bring it on.
and at some point, and there's another one too, complaining, like how, and we all complain at certain points, but at some point you have to realize all the complaining in the world doesn't change a damn thing.
Right.
Nothing changes from complaining.
Yes.
You have to take action.
Mhm. So,
Uh,
how do we start this? What should we do to get all these fun benefits we talked about?
well, like I said at the beginning, gratitude is sort of like that intangible, it's not an abstract idea, right? Kind of. But so I like to take those and make it more tangible. So one
Mm.
thing is writing things down. Get a notebook, get your pen, so that now you're using more senses, right? Because if you're just like thinking in your head, oh yeah, I'm thankful for it, right? That will help, especially if you're consistent with it. But the more you can get your senses involved when you're trying to make changes,
Right. The more
the
you immerse your whole self.
right, the faster the change will
Mm.
come. Like it cements in the brain a little bit faster.
Yep.
So writing down what you're thinking. So keeping a gratitude journal, and just make a habit every day. I'm going to write down, even if it's one thing you're thankful for, right? That's a start, and that's pretty quick. But then if you add why you're thankful for that, now you're going even deeper, right? So you have to think even more about it. That just creates that you're bushwhacking and
Yep.
you're creating those new neural pathways even faster. So the more you have to think about it, the better. So that's a great way. So even that's what I would say, start with one thing a day. It doesn't, I don't care what time of day you do it, but try to set a time so that you're more likely to. So whether it's when you first wake up in the morning or when you're going to bed, take out your journal, leave your journal by your bed, on your bedside. Write down what you're thankful for. It can be something that happened that day, or it can be just be in general, but also include why. Why are you thankful for it? So now you're going deeper and you're creating more, you're getting rid of more of that garbage to make a better pathway.
Mhm. That's a great idea.
Yeah. There's also a great study done, Three Good Things. I think it was done with nurses. But anyway, what they showed was when you get into bed, and I actually have been practicing this. I was telling Ashley before. Um, Lay your head down and you close your eyes and you're like, what are three good things that happened today? And then if you're still awake with each one, because I told her the more I practice it, I get through like one and then I don't even remember because I'm already asleep. Um, and what role did you play in making it happen, right? Because um, usually you've because it also just it kind of puts you into the story.
Yep.
So it yeah, even and sometimes I'm just like three good things and I don't even get to the part where I'm at because it and that's what they showed is that people slept better
Mm.
when they do this three good things exercise at bedtime. So
Yeah,
that's another.
and it must improve like your self-confidence too, because if you're saying that these three things went well, and oh, by the way, I had something to do with these things, like that's just a nice little boost.
Exactly. That's a great point. Thank you.
Hmm.
Yes, it can also increase self-confidence, which who doesn't want more of that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, you could do if you're a walker, if you're out walking, look around, look around your environment and name things that you're thankful for on your walk. Some of us go for walks because we're stressed out, right? We need to get our yayas out. And that's a great way too to kind of turn your mindset around. Because exercise in itself has been shown to help with, chemicals in the brain and
Right.
things like dopamine. And so then if you add gratitude to your walk, you're just increasing it that much more. And then outside, right?
Right. You got like a three for.
Being out in nature, whoa,
Oh my goodness.
because that also increases feelings of
And
well-being.
if you
So,
bring your journal with you.
so these like we're layering, right? So you're
Yes,
layering all these things, and all of it just plays a role in brain chemistry and rewiring your brain, and it all counts. Like we
definitely.
get so focused on like, oh, I'm gonna, if you're just walking to burn calories because you feel guilty, you just feel a difference in that. I got to go
Mhm.
burn some calories. I ate too much at lunch, or I just had that candy bar, or
It's
whatever the
so
reason.
negative. Oh,
Oh,
hate it.
yes. So negative. Now versus I'm going to go out and I'm going to get some sunshine and fresh air. I'm going to practice my gratitudes while I'm out there. And
Yep.
like, it's just lighter, right? Like it
For
just,
sure.
yeah.
And yeah, I think again, it's just like boosting yourself, because if we're constantly in that negative mindset and then we're practicing and switching to being grateful or practicing gratitude more often, it's just such a shift. And you can see how different you're going to react to everything else in your life too. And like if I'm going out for a walk because I'm mad about what I ate, like I'm just going to be irritated. I'm not going to enjoy the walk. And what will it have been for from a mind and mental health standpoint? And then am I going to be miserable when I come back in and treat my coworkers like crap or whatever? Like,
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Totally different mindset
yeah,
surrounding.
yeah.
And for those of you who are thinking, well, if I'm thankful for, that means what about success? Like I want more, right?
Hmm.
Well, it actually helps with that too, because what did I read recently that don't take me for my word at this, but this is what I read that Oprah um credits some of her success because she's practiced gratitude. Like you can be thankful for what you have right now and still want more,
Right,
right? And I dare say you will get that more, even more easily
right.
when you're
Because
showing
you're,
gratitude.
yeah, and I feel like you're more open-minded and you're more willing to step outside your comfort zone, and that's where opportunities often are. So that all makes a lot of sense. And not saying that like tomorrow all these things are gonna be knocking at your door, but it will be more likely that you'll be in the right place or somewhere at the right time because of the choices that you're making.
Right. And you're in a different mindset. So
Mhm.
when you experience what some would call failure, you can look at that and say, okay, what lesson did I learn from this that I can use the next time? Instead of saying, well, that didn't work, I'm done.
Right.
That's the difference, is that you experience so-called failure and you use it for feedback for the next time, or how
Right.
can I do it better now, right? Versus taking it and be like, well, that was stupid, or and now I'm stupid and I'm a
Right.
failure, so why even bother?
Hmm.
And that's the difference. So
Definitely. And one thing that we sort of mentioned earlier that I think can be really helpful for this is using gratitude with how we view or treat our bodies in general. Like we tend to feel really crappy about what our bodies look like or what they can do and all of that. So how does gratitude play a role in that, I guess?
well, and like we talked about before, appreciation, right? So,
Mhm.
or what am I thankful for that my body can do?
Mhm.
What does it do for me? I
Right.
mean,
So viewing it as more of like what can it do versus what does it look like?
yes.
Mm,
Yeah. But even with what it looks like, you can still, like, when I ask this question, so many people say I'm thankful for my eyes,
right.
right? Because they like their eyes and the way that they look. So
Hmm.
even if you are looking at from that standpoint, like what your body look, there's something. Do you like your nose? Do you like your smile? Do you, right? And the other way to look at that too is, maybe you've got your grandmother's thighs. Well, that's pretty cool. Like, you know, like
Yeah,
if it all depends on how you look at it.
exactly.
Yeah, and you
Exactly.
feel like, oh, these thighs, but then you're like, wow, I've got my grandmother's thighs, and look what, and she did whatever, and I can too. Like it's just a total change in attitude when you
Right.
start looking at what your body can do for you. Those thighs have carried you, you know, many, many miles
Hmm.
throughout your lifetime.
Maybe up mountains, maybe across lakes, lots
Yeah,
of
squatting down, if you're a gardener, or yeah,
playing with kids or
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so
So
so we can use it like as a general tool for overall health, mental health improvements, and we can also use it in a more specific kind of way, it sounds like too, with like if we want to change our outlook on our body image, for example.
yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
And what it starts off as, you know, what initially will feel like work, like, and there are going to be some days you're like, I have nothing to be thankful for. But that's where that choice comes in, is
Mm,
to maybe take a bigger look. Okay, all right, yep, I'm thankful, um, I made it to work today because my car was on empty. What,
right, right.
there is always something you can find. And over time, like with anything else we talk about, with that consistent practice over time, it becomes a habit, and you are going to more easily, it just becomes part of your outlook,
Right.
right? And um I know I sometimes probably say it too much, but there's a reason for everything. There's a reason everything happens. And when you start looking at that reason, and sometimes it can happen over time, maybe you can't see it right now. But if you start taking the attitude like, okay, I don't like what's going on right now, but there's a reason it's happening, and I will be on the lookout for that reason.
Hmm.
Right. It just changes your whole mindset and how
Yeah.
you approach life.
And going back to like on the days where you feel like nothing positive happened or nothing that you were thankful for happened, those are probably the days that we really need to look for them more because it will only help us to get through that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And
Okay.
I think that we talked about having some tools and links to different things in the show notes.
Yes, there
Maybe
is
a
a
quiz.
gratitude quiz. So, so this will kind of give you, if you're just interested, it's kind of interesting, to get like your gratitude baseline.
Mm-hmm.
So like, where are you at right now? So it's, we'll have the link to it, but it's the University of California, Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center. and it's an online gratitude assessment. It's quick, it's easy, and they use your responses in their own research too. So
Mhm.
you'll see part of a research study, but it's all anonymous. Like you
Right.
don't put any information into it. So, but it's just kind of a cool. And then every now and then you go back and retake it and see if your score is increased. So those of you that like the numbers and
Right.
things like that, this could be a fun thing to do. Or even to do like with couples or with your kids, right?
Yep.
See if you're going to really get into this gratitude practice. Um, and that's another thing too, is like get the whole family involved with it. You don't have to do it on your own.
Right. It will only be
Maybe
helpful for everybody. Yeah.
have a jar,
Oh, that's
and
a good idea.
every day they put in there some, the kids write down something that they're thankful for, and it goes in the jar once a week or once a month or whatever. Or maybe on a bad day, like when everyone's just miserable and fighting, pull that jar out and see what you're thankful for. Different ways to use it. Get creative with it. There's no, and we would love to hear what you come up with. Like come up with some
Yes,
ideas, and we would love to hear them.
definitely. And in our Facebook group for November, I think every day we're putting the question out there,
Mhm.
what are you grateful for, thankful for? And we've had some really great responses already. So you can find the link to the group if you're not in it already in our show notes also.
Yep. Yeah. So we are offering opportunities for you
Yes.
to get
And you,
into the
yeah.
gratitude
And you
practice.
can kind of see what other people are saying too. If you're like, I don't even know where to start with this. Sometimes seeing what other people are saying is helpful to be starting those like juices flowing, I guess.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And just being a part of it, it just even the couple days. What's today, the second or third day? We haven't even done
Free.
the
Today's
third
day
day.
free.
So
So
we're
we've only
recording this at the beginning of November, everyone. But yeah, so just looking at all the responses so far is just like such a positive boost to look at everybody's. It's
yes.
been nice
Yeah.
so far.
And I know that at least one person in there within the last year lost her husband.
Mm,
So that's what I mean. Like even though she's still grieving,
yep,
she's one of the active participants.
right.
So um again, it's proof that it's a choice.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this was such a great conversation. Oh my goodness.
I'm grateful for you,
Same, same Z's.
and we're grateful for all of you, our listeners.
Yes.
Thank you for hanging out with us.
Mm-hmm. And you can find us all over social media to hang out with us more instead of just at our podcast. Like I said, we have our Facebook group. We have a group call once a month where we talk about the podcast episodes a little bit more in depth, and they're not recorded, so they don't get onto the podcast. So it's kind of a special thing. Yeah. And again, all those links are in the show notes.
Yes. Awesome. Well,
Awesome.
this was great.
Yes.
Thank you for
And
joining us.
yes, we'll chat with you next time.
Love you, latte.
Love you, latte.